What if your body has been trying to tell you something for months, maybe even years, and you've been missing the signals? Think about it. What if the cracks in your lips, the fatigue you brush off, the random cravings you can't explain aren't random at all? What if they're messages, clear, physical clues that something deeper is off? Because here's the truth most people never hear. Your body rarely breaks down without warning. It whispers first, and those whispers show up as symptoms. But the problem is, most people are waiting for something loud, something dramatic, a diagnosis, a lab result, a moment where it's undeniable. And by the time that happens, the process has already been building for years. Let me tell you a quick story. I once spoke with someone who felt completely fine. At least, that's what they thought. They were productive. They were functioning. From the outside, everything looked normal. But when we slowed things down and actually looked closer, the clues were everywhere. Their energy dipped every afternoon. Their skin had changed texture. They had cravings they couldn't explain. Sleep wasn't as deep. Focus wasn't as sharp. But none of it felt serious enough to act on. So they ignored it, like most people do. Until one day, it stopped being subtle. And suddenly, it wasn't just a small issue anymore. That's how this works. It's not one big collapse. It's a slow drift. A gradual shift away from optimal function. A series of small signals, stacked over time. And most of those signals trace back to one core issue. Nutrient deficiency. Now before we go through the signs, you need to understand why this happens in the first place. Because if you don't understand the cause, you'll keep reacting instead of correcting. There are three main reasons your body becomes deficient. First, absorption problems. You could be eating all the right foods, but if your gut isn't working properly, you're not actually absorbing those nutrients. This is where most people get misled. They assume effort equals outcome. I'm eating healthy, so I must be nourished. But biology doesn't work like that. Absorption is everything. Your digestive system isn't passive. It's an active, step-by-step process. Food has to be broken down, chemically and mechanically. Then nutrients have to be transported across the gut lining, then distributed through the bloodstream. If any part of that chain is inefficient, the result is the same as not eating the nutrient at all. Low stomach acid means incomplete breakdown. So proteins aren't fully converted into usable building blocks. Low bile means fats aren't processed correctly. So critical nutrients like vitamins A, D, E, and K never make it into circulation. And if the gut lining is irritated or inflamed, it becomes a barrier instead of a gateway. So nutrients pass through, unused. Which means you can be doing everything right and still falling short. Now layer that with the second issue, low nutrient intake. Not because you're eating less food, but because the food itself has changed. What most people don't realize is that food quality has shifted dramatically over time. Modern systems prioritize efficiency, volume, appearance, shelf life, but not nutrient density. So you end up with food that looks vibrant, but delivers less than it used to. Less magnesium, less zinc, less trace minerals. And those trace minerals, even in tiny amounts, are critical for thousands of biochemical reactions. They're the spark plugs of your metabolism. Without them, processes slow down. Efficiency drops, and small inefficiencies compound over time, which means your body has to work harder, with less, and over time, that gap adds up. Now combine that with the third problem, nutrient depletion. This is where things really accelerate. Because certain foods don't just fail to nourish you, they actively drain you. Every time you consume refined sugar, your body has to pull minerals like magnesium and zinc just to process it. Every time you eat ultra-processed foods, you create metabolic stress. And that stress has a cost. So even if you think you're eating enough, your body is constantly spending nutrients just to keep up, which creates a hidden deficit. And that deficit eventually shows up. Not in lab tests at first, but in symptoms, subtle ones, signals. Now let's get into those signals. Because this is where things become real. Have you ever noticed small white spots on your nails? They seem harmless, but they're often a delayed reflection of imbalance, usually tied to zinc. And here's the key. Nails grow slowly. So what you see today reflects what happened months ago. That's how your body keeps records. Now think about oily skin. It's easy to treat it like a cosmetic issue. But underneath, it's often a hormonal signal. Androgens driving oil production, with zinc playing a regulatory role. So when zinc is off, your skin becomes the messenger. Now look at the corners of your mouth. Those small cracks? They're not random dryness. They're structural breakdown. A sign your body doesn't have enough B vitamins to maintain tissue integrity. And here's where it gets deeper. Your gut microbiome helps produce those vitamins. So if your gut is compromised, your ability to maintain your skin goes with it. Now take flaking skin, especially around the nose. That's not just dryness, it's imbalance. Too much omega-6, not enough omega-3, and that imbalance drives inflammation at the cellular level. Now let's go further. Bleeding gums. Most people blame brushing, but the real issue is often structural weakness in blood vessels, and that traces back to vitamin C. Without it, the connective tissue that holds those vessels together weakens, so they leak. Now here's one people don't expect. Difficulty seeing at night. This is one of the earliest signs your visual system isn't getting what it needs. Vitamin A, specifically the active form, is essential for light adaptation. But if you're relying only on plant sources, your body has to convert it. And not everyone converts efficiently, so you can be eating healthy and still come up short. Now think about swelling in your ankles. That's fluid imbalance, and often, it's tied to potassium. Your body relies on a balance between sodium and potassium to regulate fluid movement. When that balance is off, fluid stays where it shouldn't. Now cravings. This is where your body becomes very direct. Craving ice? That's often your body signaling iron imbalance. Craving salt late at night? That's your electrolytes asking for correction. These aren't random desires. They're targeted signals. Now let's talk about something people overlook completely. Mental and emotional changes. Irritability, anxiety, overthinking. These are often dismissed as personality traits or stress, but they can also be biochemical. Your nervous system depends heavily on nutrients like B1. Without it, your system becomes more reactive, more sensitive, less stable, and finally, mood. Low energy, low motivation, feeling off. This is often tied to vitamin D, which doesn't just support bones, it regulates brain chemistry. It influences serotonin, so when levels drop, your mood follows. Now step back and look at the pattern. Your body isn't breaking down randomly. It's communicating. Every symptom is a message. Every change is feedback. The issue isn't that your body is failing you. The issue is that most people were never taught how to interpret the signals, so they ignore them or suppress them. Instead of asking the one question that actually matters, what is my body missing? Because once you start asking that question, everything shifts. You stop chasing symptoms, and you start solving problems at the source. And when you do that, the body doesn't need to signal anymore, because the problem is no longer there. So remember this. Your health follows patterns, and those patterns are visible. If you're willing to pay attention to your skin, your nails, your energy, your cravings, your sleep, because your body is constantly giving you feedback. The question is, are you listening? Because once you do, you gain something most people never have. Control. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.